I'm a mindful somatic coach. I teach people how to connect to who they truly are and give voice to that in their life so that they can be the people, the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the healers, the coaches that they were born to be.
And his name is Brett Hill.
Brett Hill, that's my name. Yep.
We might have pivoted the show a little bit since we last spoke. Can I maybe throw you a curveball?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally into that.
So, Secret to a Good Life. We ran that topic for a year, and I compiled all the transcripts from every episode that I recorded, and I threw them into a ChatGPT filter, and we asked ChatGPT for the secret to a good life, according to 70 or so high-powered entrepreneurs. And it was a list of like 5 things, it turns out. So I don't know if maybe mission accomplished. We figured it out, but I wanted to dial in. Actually, I'll ask you, what do you think were one of the 5 secrets to a good life, if you had to guess?
Oh gosh, what from ChatGPT? Oh my God, that's a hysterical question. Let's see.
Because I took the transcripts from everybody's show, put them all in ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, just grab the answers for me, and gave me 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, just tell me.
All right. Number 1 is grit. Without question, grit. Resilience, like stick-withedness, totally grit. Number 2 is faith. And faith, not necessarily religious faith. A lot of people had faith in Jesus or whatever. But faith in oneself, faith in the future, faith in humanity, right? Just hope along that same line. Love, and specifically it went towards like relationships. A tribe, a people, good relationships with your family and your friends, or just like a handful of relationships or good relationships with your partner. So love, nature, and or getting outside and meditating type of thing, touching grass, getting in dirt, being active, swimming, all that type of stuff. And then the last one was fun.
Wow.
Just having fun.
Nice list.
The list. Yeah, it's pretty simple. So that being said, the show got a little bit redundant because it was just those same things over and over again. So one of the common denominators that I took from the show was some of the best stories that I had were the miracle stories from entrepreneurs. Mm. And so I'm curious if there's a miracle story that you'd be willing to share on the show. And I say miracle, but that's triggering to some people. There's this very polarizing list of phrases that people have in their religious, spiritual experience. And so it could be anything. The heavens opened, or you felt a burning in your heart,
What? So where are you on like the woo scale, like in terms of...
Woo's great. I'm good for all of it.
Okay.
So part of my mission is detangling all of that. Trying to understand what it is, this quantum soup that we're splashing around in.
Yeah, exactly so.
You want to explore it together?
Well, I'm at heart, is something I don't usually lead with in my work. I'm a mystic. So I kind of live in the soup. You know what I mean? So even as I'm speaking here, I'm aware of a much bigger thing than I'm actually speaking about. Because the way I experience things is this voice and these words are very small. And the experience that we're in is much, much bigger. And my job is to kind of track this bigger frame and use it to create connection and rapport, because I think that communication isn't about the words. The words are a carrier. The words are a transmission of a space that you're connected to. So my job is to be connected to something that is worth transmitting and put it out there with people in a way that they can be heard. And so if I really tune into people, I get really intuitive, and I get really, and just between me and you, I almost had a career as a professional psychic, because it's that wonky in here. I get information that I have no way to know. And I've had many experiences in terms of a miracle. That was kind of my first sort of thing, is that I had an absolute proof that you could get information just out of the air you had no way to know. And that changed my world. That changed everything about me. So,
is there a story?
Oh, yeah, there's a story there.
I want to hear the story. So let's record. We have 23 minutes to come up with something magical. Mystic quantum soup. Let's bring it to a boil.
Well, and we could also talk about this can just dovetail into intuition and using intuition as a guide for your coaching and for your life, because that's
yeah, I'm into it. I think one of the exploratory subjects that I'm on lately is that I grew up learning to focus on the feeling of the spirit, literally the
yeah.
Holy Spirit, right? So we would close our eyes and we would pray, and I was taught to try and feel the angels in the room.
Yeah,
I would sit there and like I even could feel like their hands were being placed on my head and like giving me a blessing. Like
that's right.
I
Yeah,
was
that's
steeped
right.
in that. And so since I've turned my back on that faith, I've had to reconcile those experiences. And one of the questions that I'm wrestling with is in order for you to have a spiritual experience, your physiology has to be engaged. You have to actually feel it, right? There's the temperature change in your body and
Yeah,
neurochemistry that's shifting.
yeah,
And so my question is, where does your physiological experience end and the divine influence on that experience begin?
yeah. Well, that's exactly it. I would say that's humanity. That's the exact intersection of our nervous system with all of that, because that's the very definition of what the yin yang is about, right? We are both the infinite and the finite. We are both material and immaterial. And we are the intersection of those things. And we're the intersection of those things for a reason. There's stuff that happens at that intersection that can only happen at that intersection. So you look at throughout nature, you look at where do two worlds meet? The ocean and the land, the air and the water. Those interfaces are where all these really delicate and yet super important ecosystems live, because they're the connections of the world. That's exactly what we are as people. We're this intersection of the physical and the non-material, the divine and the material world. Now, in another level, it's kind of all the same material, but it's only here that we can create out of nothing a state of love and connection that did not exist before. So if in my actual kind of world of worlds, our job is to be manufacturers of, let's just say, goodness, of love. We just tune into that, take the energy that comes from what we eat and intentionally create from it an experience of expansive connected goodness. That's turning lead to gold. That's true alchemy. And that's the mission. Because for some reason, that's valuable to whatever God is. Because people think of God as like a finite, an infinite, finished thing. I think God is growing. And we are respirations for that process.
We're the latest advanced mechanism of the universe's ability to understand itself. It is energy in the quantum field that has somehow, in an instant, 13.8 billion years ago, right, came into physical being. Boom, there it is. All of a sudden, it starts expanding. Literally, like the strong and weak gravitational forces collided in epic battle from that point forward, and it, through iteration, right, creates these more advanced creatures that are not only capable of interacting in their nest, in their gaggle, in their troop, but eventually develop this prefrontal cortex and this really powerful corpus callosum that, you know, kind of feeds into that beautiful brain stem that holds up our reptilian brain, and this special mix of neurotissue makes it so that we are this unique intersection of the unseeable quantum that is all energy, this panpsychist view of the world, and the physical matter that is created from the vibrational unity of these things coming together and making what we see as the physical world.
Yeah. I mean, and that sounds right to me. And it's like there's another way I think about it is like fracking. You know what fracking is? It's like so out of a fracking process, there's a very, very small amount of highly volatile energy at the very top of it. That's the most volatile, refined. And that's consciousness. That's like the higher end of consciousness. And everything else goes into the material stuff. So if you look at like what happens when energy is actually released in the body as a result of, digestion, like the actual real true energy in its purest form is just explodes in a cell. And that's what animates us at 20. We have a body temperature. Well, the result of that is, what do you do with that energy? It turns into biomechanical energy. Some parts of that turn into consciousness, and some parts of that consciousness are very high. It's also very delicate, but very powerful, just exactly like a regular fracking system, which produces a very small amount of highly refined gas and a very large amount of like tar and crap, And so at the end of the day, you have a little bit of super consciousness that you can then align with. And our brains, the newest part of our brains, have a capacity to experience this in a very limited way. And I think that's like the edge of humanity. Like, I think we have a capacity to kind of like sense each other in a way and to feel into this field. That we have a system for that, but it's just nascent. It's like very small. So it seems like fog. It's like there's a shape in the fog. I'm not sure what it is. But for some people, it's a little more developed than others.
I have in preparation for each of my podcasts, we have a introduction session where we kind of dive into the topics that we're going to have. And especially since introducing this idea of mystic and woo-woo and nuance and spirituality, there are a lot of people who they say, well, I don't know if this really answers your question, but I kind of just have this intuition about me and I'm able to like come up with answers, but I've never really had like a spiritual experience. I've never had like the windows of heaven haven't been opened to me. I've never really felt what other people are talking about. And I'm curious if those are potentially underdeveloped. There's some sort of mechanism of organs that are capable of picking up on that field, that there are some people in the population that just can't feel those things. Or
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm just curious from like an evolutionary standpoint. Like, there's so much variability across the population, and that stuff happening in the prefrontal cortex it's that little top layer that comes tracking. I'm curious if there are a bunch of people in the population that just literally they don't produce it. They don't have the mechanism capable of producing it, or they've never flexed it.
It's I would say yes, and there's these things are always on a spectrum, right? So it's an intersection of neurological capacity with social construct with your specifics of your life. So when those things kind of come together in a way that make it easy for you to, because in many ways this is an act of surrender, right? To let yourself have those moments. Because if you go to every single spiritual experience that ever happened with people, there's generally are two sorts. One is someone just gets whacked on the head by a lightning bolt. It just went off and they weren't expecting it. And others are deep acts of surrender. There's also, what Jeff would call third force, where you take a drug and it just blows you out, or it opens you up in ways neurologically that cause you to have experiences. And then there's another, which is transmission, where, you're in relationship with a person or a field of energy somewhere who can transmit stuff to you. And you happen to be resonant enough that you can pick it up. And that's the whole point of like devotion to the guru or devotion to Christ or whatever you're supposed to be. When you vibe enough with that opens a door for you. I think, though, that people are having spiritual experiences all the time. They just don't call them that. Very common ones are anytime you feel awe, anytime you look at the sunset and you go, wow. To me, that is a pure moment of connection with the divine. It's just that we don't experience it that way. You just think it's the sunset, but it's not the sunset. It's beauty in you recognizing itself. And if you really dial into that, it's oneness.
You mentioned towards the beginning that you have a story.
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can tell. I do want to hear about this story, this synchronicity. Let's hear about it.
So here's what happened. There was a whole series of strange things happening before this that led up to this experience. But through some magical experiences in my life when I was mid-20s, I wound up owning 5 used record stores back in the day when vinyl was the thing. And I was sitting in myself. Now, I was agnostic at the time. I was really kind of a committed agnostic. I had been grown up in the Bible Belt. I thought I was going to be a preacher, but I walked away from all that after I had an awareness that God was just my idea of a perfect man, and my limited human brain couldn't possibly conceive of anything that could create a universe, and it was stupid to even try. And so whenever I figured that out, I kind of like, well, that everything I've learned is just a story about a nice idea, but it's just a story that's limited by my human capacity. I can't possibly know. And since I can't possibly know, I'll just say, I don't know, and own it, right? And so one day I was laying down, reading a book on the sofa, and I thought, oh, I need to go call the store. And so it was 10:30 at night. There's nobody there. But I had this, it was really strong to get up and go call the store. And I actually go over and I pick up the phone, this back, before cell phones even. And so you start to call the phone, call the store, and I'm going, wait, it's 10:30. There's no one there. This is stupid. And I go, why am I doing this? And I thought the feeling was, if I call, I'm going to scare someone and keep the store from being robbed. And I thought, this is stupid. And I went back and I laid back down. So I went back or laid down, started to read the book. I could not shake this feeling. And I'm going, okay, this is crazy. So I went over, started dialing it, got to the last number, and I thought, hold on. If I'm being robbed and I call and I scare someone, I'll never know if kind of a thing is actually real or not. Because if I am being robbed, then I'll know for sure that I can get information just out of the air about something I have no way to know. And that means, because I'm kind of a scientist inside, that means there's a mechanism here that I don't know anything about. It seems kind of important. So I hung up the phone, drove up there about 30 miles away, and I had been robbed. And so I felt like, okay, I have absolute, unrefutable evidence that you can know things that you have no objective way to know, things that are happening somewhere else in the world. So there's some mechanics here that I don't understand or know anything about. All I know is that you can know things that you cannot know. And that opened the door for me to begin to explore, well, what can you know? And that started me on a whole path of meditation. I became a meditation teacher, instructor, really got in tune with what's it mean to know something about what's going on in your inner world, and use that in a practical way in relationship to the outer world. And my whole rest of my life has been the exploration and elucidation of that pursuit.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, Brett Hill. Boy, what do you make of that? What have you been able to detangle and demystify any of that experience, right? Is it just, right, like, you weren't given that experience to prevent you from being robbed. You were given that experience to uncover the fact that you could have that experience, right? Or
I don't know. I don't go to I was given. I go to it happened, because I don't want to empower the universe with the notion that it's thinking about me, although it might be. I don't know. What I do know is that it happened. And I do know that I can tune into people and objects in a way that information comes to me about them that I do not have a rational way to know. I spent my rest of my life kind of not pursuing that, but with practices to kind of help me explore this. And I've done it so much that I know that I can know things about people. And I use this in my coaching. I use this in the work that I do all the time. And these days I just call it intuition, right? So it's kind of like learning that intuition can be a way that it can be a practical aspect of my experience that can be very functional and useful. But I don't walk around going, oh, I'm all intuitive. I am, but I just use it as a part. It's just, for me, it's just like I've got eyes, I've got ears, I've got breath, I've got intuition. All of that plays in my conversations with people.
Yeah, it's an arrow in the quiver, a tool in the belt.
Exactly. It's not like I'm going to make a big deal out of it. It's just, but I do help people learn to sort that out. What do you make up? How do you know what's intuition and what's just invented? And that is a legit question. My best advice to that is, well, I have a whole bunch of advice, but one of the things is just give voice to your intuitions in ways that are safe and exploratory. Just say, I don't know why, but I'm curious about this. And it might be out of left field. The other day I was talking with a client, was looking at her, and we were talking about things she could be doing. And I had the sense that she writes. She was a writer. I don't know why I had that sense, but I know enough about myself that whenever that sense comes to me, it's usually something there. And so I just said, by the way, do you write? And she looked at me, she said, why? Yes, actually, I do. And I'm going, okay, let's use that as a part of your program that I was putting together for her. So that's the way it serves me often, is just to kind of have an insight into what skills, things people have, what are they connected to. And I don't make a big deal out of it. It's just furthering the task of helping her out.
If you could give a prescription to the person who wants to be more intuitive, who wants to build that muscle in their soul, in their body, wherever it resides, what's one of the exercises that you would do as a newbie? You just found out about intuition. What's your prescription?
Connect to your bodily sensations, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and give a voice to them. So this is along the lines of, this is one of the reasons I teach mindfulness, because in many ways this is a mindful somatic practices, because that is the path to connecting to a bigger experience of your moment. And in that bigger experience is all this information that we're talking about, all this coolness, all this together connection. Because a lot of this is about connectedness too. You can't really connect to other people well until you can connect to yourself. And so a big part of this is exploring your own inner world in a way where you get to know yourself fairly well. Like, oh, there's that part of me that feels like I'm not enough. There's that part of me that's worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, or feels like that I can't be good enough, or there's that part of me that gets excited about everything. I'm ADD, right? So it's like everything is exciting and fun, and I just get pulled in a million directions. I have to notice that and not let it drive me. It's not that I don't want to be excited. I just want to make a choice rather than just go, oh, there's that, and then, oh, there's that. And pretty soon my whole day is gone. I haven't done anything. But I love that part of me that lights up about fun ideas and cool things. But I don't want to wake up 20 years later and realize, well, I never focused on anything for more than 6 hours. I didn't get my mission in life done. So noticing how you put together, it's like, there's so much to that. That's truly, truly the most important work that a human can do.
Where can everyone find you?
Mindfulcoach.com. Mindfulcoach.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead.
That's it. So there you can find out what I'm up to. Have a course on communications. I have a meditation sequence I'd be happy to send anybody as well. So just to connect with me. I'm happy to hook you up with some resources.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been the Pulse Ox Podcast. Please, if you found this episode valuable, give us a like on Spotify and share it with a friend.